Well, actually, you're being traced and tracked and targeted if you don't use a cell phone too. If you move, if you have a heartbeat,
Yeah.
if you have a brainwave and your heart's pulsing, then you're showing up on a radar screen under Doppler or radar. So that's 70-year-old technology. They can trace and track things. You used to see it in the Iraq War, the so-called Iraq War, where you see like a satellite imagery from miles above looking down, and you see men moving around. Well, those men probably don't have cell phones, but then they drop a bomb on them, right? They trace and target them,
Mhm.
but because they have body temperature and pulse rate, they can be picked up on a radar screen. So everyone can be traced and tracked, whether you're vaccinated, whether you're not vaccinated, whether you're carrying a phone, whether you're wearing a Fitbit or smart glasses. Equipment, which includes the dust, Teraswarm, mesogens. That's what they're called. They're called mesogens, MIMS and MIMOs, S.M.A.R.T Dust. Almost no one understands anything I just said. And there
Okay.
are a dozen acronyms and synonyms for S.M.A.R.T Dust. They have acronyms for it too. MIMS and MIMOs are acronyms, but they mean electromagnetic parts and maximum input, maximum output using 6G terahertz, which isn't so much about speed as it is ubiquitous and pervasive coverage. It's about mesh. It's about inescapable and ubiquitous Doppler radar effects. And it's a submillimeter wave pulsing energy of magnetic resonance and light and sound. And this is what's missing from most podcasts that you watch. If you watch Stu Peters or you watch Jane Ruby or you watch any of the clowns, the clown show that you'll find in the so-called alt media, they will all conceal the truth. Okay, it's not an electronic magnetic frequency problem. That is part of it. That's about 20% of it. But it's a photonic weapon problem, a light energy problem, linear accelerator problem, cyclotron problem, scintillation problem, exciting particle problem. It's having to do with sound waves, ultrasonic weapon problem, optogenetics category within photonic light energy weaponry, light steering, sound steering, beam steering, EMF steering, beam bending, beam steering, pointing, aiming, steering, linear, nonlinear radiation poisoning. Now, it gets worse from there because it's not that you're just being tracked and traced by Raytheon Missile Guidance and Lockheed and Boeing and McDonnell Douglas and Northrop Grumman, which you are. You can be tracked by Lockheed is the general contractor, but Raytheon seems to be the most perverted in terms of trace, track, and targeting because of their missile guidance programs. And basically, you are a target. All the living creatures are targets of Raytheon. They even have disturbing names for it, called shoot and kill or hit and kill, and on command, when command, like
Wow.
when is the safety turned on? Are you ready to fire the weapon? On command, when do you want to turn it on? When do you want to fire? Hit to kill. That's all vocabulary used by Raytheon and Lockheed to discuss their enemy. Attack you, it's to modify you into a cyborg and to do away with humanity. It's the post-humanity. We have a pandemic of post-humanity. In other words, get rid of all the humans and bring in the computer-to-brain interface zombie apocalypse. And that's the purpose of Jennifer Doudna. That is her purpose. That's the purpose of Corey Hall in UC Berkeley, Teraswarm. That's what this program is Teraswarm. It's neuromodulation. It's also known as molecular communication, also known as molecular engineering, also known as gene editing of your DNA, also known as human French frying you using all manner of radiation poisoning, light, sound, and electronic magnetic resonance to turn you from whatever you used to be into what you're going to be, which is a tethered to the cloud walking hard drive, neuromodulated zombie of a zombie nation of apocalyptic disturbance.
Harvesting, I mean, with energy harvesting. So the abstract says nanoscale wireless networks are expected to revolutionize a variety of domains with significant advances conceivable in body healthcare. These, and note the word will, these nano networks will consist of energy harvesting nano devices passively flowing through the bloodstream, taking actions at certain locations and communicating results to a more powerful body area network. Assuming such a setup in electromagnetic nanocommunication in the terahertz THz frequencies, we propose a network architecture that can support fine-grained localization of the energy harvesting in-body nanonodes, as well as their two-way communication with the outside world. The main novelties of our proposal lie in the utilization of location-aware and wake-up radio, WUR-based wireless nanocommunication paradigms, as well as software-defined metamaterials, SDMs, for supporting the envisioned functionalities in the terahertz operating energy harvesting in-body nano networks. We argue that on a high level, the proposed architecture can handle and actually benefits from a large number of nanonodes, while simultaneously dealing with the short range of terahertz in-body propagation and highly constrained nanonodes. And for index terms, it says in-body networks, nanonetworks, terahertz, ultrasound, software-defined metamaterials, localization, and energy harvesting. So literally, this right here is it's not even hiding it. They're with energy harvesting. These will consist of energy harvesting nanonodes, and the more the merrier. It's actually going to work better if there's more of them. So.
Mm-hmm. I would call that a document Exhibit A at the Crimes Against Humanity trial that we'll be holding, the Committee for Public Safety, which is a capital felony crime resulting in the death penalty if you're convicted.
So what is that in a very easy to understand way? What's special about it?
Havana syndrome. These are, the stories you heard about the Russian embassy in San Francisco complaining about COVID-like symptoms, right? Mm-hmm. What is terahertz radiation? It's a Havana syndrome. What's that? Well, let me give you some examples. And if you tell your medical doctor, your trusted medical doctor who you should never trust ever, since he's pimped out and bribed by Medicare and the healthcare insurance industry pays him. If you tell him you have Havana syndrome, he'll tell you that he doesn't get paid on that, so you don't have that. Ringing in your ears, chronic headaches that come and go, chronic fatigue, nausea, vomiting, lethargy. Those are all the symptoms of terahertz radiation. Those are the symptoms of what formerly was called Havana syndrome that people in State Departments complained about, or Russian embassies complained about. They complained about it in Havana, Cuba, in the American embassy, saying that the evil Russians were injecting terahertz radiation or some invisible weapon, giving them all COVID-like symptoms. Of course, this was decades before there was such a hoax event called COVID. The law of the sea is the captain's in charge and we follow orders or people die. That's essentially what maritime law is, or law of the sea. But it's a little bit more nuanced than that, because it turns out the captain is not 100% in charge. Okay, the ship is financed and funded and owned by the bank. So the captain did not build the ship. The ship was assigned to him. The captain is an employee. The captain of the ship is the senior employee at sea. But the bank owns the ship. And guess what? The bank owns whatever cargo is on that ship, or whatever munitions or bounty that's owned by the bank. Now, the crew, they're in a difficult situation. If they don't follow the captain's orders, then they're non-compliant, and they could be accused of mutiny, of trying to organize a mutiny against the captain, since they're non-compliant. So mutiny is a capital crime, can result in hanging from the yardarm or being thrown overboard to where the sharks are, or put in the brig for the rest of the voyage. You should know that every ship has a medical doctor, medical officer. The medical officer is the only person on the ship that can relieve the captain from duty for unfitness of duty or a medical emergency. This would have the effect of making the first officer become the successor captain. So even though the captain's in charge and we follow orders or people die, even the captain can be put in the brig or the hospital, or called sick bay. They can be put in sick bay on the order of the ship's doctor. Now, you see, they have this pyramid triangle of control at the top of the maritime.
They will put their assets kind of generally together, and they will use it to live off the backs of everybody else who are kept in the dark. The people
it's a pyramid scam, right?
Indeed, absolutely.
Scheme, right? In other words, the few at the top exploit the many at the bottom. That's a pyramid scheme. But that is how Swiss Bank Authority has mastered us. They do it in the form of black magic. Black magic means concealed in the shadows, operating between the gray and black latitudes, so that the common men, they don't understand the language, they don't understand the vocabulary, they don't understand the lexicon of terms, they don't know what the acronyms mean, they don't understand that the men at the top are evil and trying to control or kill them. They want to pacify, control, or kill them. And if you don't understand that, you won't understand that you are operating and being exploited in a pyramid scheme. Hence the Egyptian pyramid concept.
Here is a good way to look at it. A quote-unquote spell is a form of mind control that acts like a pair of glasses. It bends the target's worldview until the sorcerer's implanted mythology becomes their mental proof of reality, regardless of external facts. And there are three ingredients, if you will. The first is double speak and plausible deniability. The second is repetition and circular reasoned logic. So, repetition is the most basic form of mind control, Pavlov and his dog. And circular logic is a loop, it reinforces itself. The harder you work, the higher your taxes. The higher your taxes, the harder you work. And third, it has to have just enough recognizable truth for the mind to suspend disbelief, just enough sugar to make the medicine go down. And let's see, circular reasoning. The most effective spells are built on a pre-indoctrinated mythology that facilitates circular reasoning. This technique traps the subject in a self-validating mental spiral, leaving them no logical exit from the implanted worldview except for the one that is predetermined by the sorcerer. And the final is suspension of disbelief. Here it is right here. This is from, let me see, the year 1828, Webster's 1828 dictionary, Husbandry. The business of a farmer comprehending agriculture or tillage of the ground, the raising, managing, and fattening of cattle and other domestic animals, the management of the dairy and whatever the land produces. The other is frugality, domestic economy, good management, thrift. But in this case, we generally prefix good as husbandry, as good husbandry.
Yep, fattening up the resources and having a bountiful harvest. A bountiful harvest is good husbandry. And if you're watching Netflix,